So let's do this in a cleaner manner. So I'll just go and get rid of all this junk, little experiments I was making. Except maybe I should not lose my path, right? So this is my path. So I'll keep my path. I'll just get rid of this. I'll keep my path because I'm getting it very successfully. Everything else I'm just going to get rid of. Okay. And then I'm going back to this example, and I will use path to one file, another path, and try to do comparison on the creation time of the two files. Okay, so Control Home, take a look, source format. So here's my first file. So instead of using those artificial sample paths to my files, I'm just going to use this and path to one existing file and another path to another existing file. Right? So instead of coding it from scratch, I'm just going to do this. All right, and of course I have my file and my file 2. In my directory, as far as I can remember at the beginning of our presentation. So we have a couple of these basic file attributes. Attributes is misspelled over here. It needs to be lowercase. Okay, very well then. So we have this sample, and file time, of course, also needs to be imported. So we're gonna fix the imports, and so file time is just another helper object that we need to import. All right, so observe what happens here. Number one, we obtain path to file 1 and file 2. Then we obtain attributes for file 1 and file 2. Then we obtain times for file 1 and file 2. And the file time, a helper object, has compared to a method which can give us this this specific information about comparing the two times. So if I run this, the creation time for one file is this, another one is this in UTC time format, and we say that file 1 was created before file 2, right? So if I flip this around, then if I make this referring to file 2 and file 1 and run it again, I get that file 1 was created after file 2. So this example works, and we can of course compare the files based on this. Of course, you can compare the sizes, you can compare file names to sort them alphabetically, and of course you can also do your sorting based on the file time. If you recall from CIS 157, the fall class, we've used comparator quite extensively and use array lists with objects which implement the comparator interface, and part of it was the implementation of the compare to. So clearly you can create your own objects which could rely on some files that do exist, and we can provide a logic to do our comparisons based on file times, file sizes, file names, and so forth. So the files class is a bag of all these static methods. So we can, once again, the first time around what we tried doing was to use paths to get to a file object. This time, if you have a path and all you need to do is just check some of these attributes, basically some of the metadata about our files, you don't have to create a file object. All you do is use the files class and one or a combination of these static methods, which basically give you access to. You can find out: are you dealing with directory? Are you dealing with a regular file? Is this the size? Is this readable, writable, and so forth. What else you can do is that you can create the directory stream, which allows you to do more things on the file system. For example, navigate, create directories, and so forth. So we can explore this functionality a little bit more. So an example of creating a directory. Remember, I originally used the command line, and make dir was my command to create a subfolder. So this time we can use Java code to create a subfolder, and of course I do have my path to already existing subfolder, we can create both file and directory. So let's just use a directory sample from here. So let's just examine what this does, right? So let's go back to our basic example, and I'll just replace this stuff with this. Okay, let me just make sure that my first of all, I'll switch back to the path to the directory. Notice that I'm using forward slashes, so I'll just do that, and well, in fact, I can just use this as a directory string, right? To make it a little bit more generic, I can say string dir string equals my path right there, right? So I just get rid of that and use dir string right there, and save everything, format right there. So create directories, and this is obviously is another situation where I need to catch the IO exception. So I need to say try. This has to be wrapped by try and catch, right? Try and then catch an exception, and the exception is IO exception right there, and exception is EX, and here I can say if this fails, right? If my create directory fails, then I will say directory path if doesn't exist this, right? So I'll just use another subdir at this level. Okay, so it says if it doesn't exist, then create this real directory, and we'll say system.out.print, right? Print line, and we can say that this dir directory was created, right? Was created. Otherwise, if this kind of like failed on me, then I will say that a directory already exists. Already exists. All right, so let's see what happens when I run it, right? So I know that this subdir doesn't exist, so I'm just going to run this and see what happens, right? So let's see. Okay, run it, and it says subdir was created. Obviously, I didn't use enough space here, right? Where's my output? And when I run it the second time, create directories was created. Maybe there was another exception. Let me see. Maybe it's not an IO exception, but something else. Let me see what it is. Run. My impression is that I'm not catching this exception, so I'd like to find out what's going on. One sure way to find out what's going on is to read the documentation for it, right? So if I say once again files Create directories. Creates a directory by creating all non-existing parent directories first. So this is pretty powerful. It will just go through the path and will create any directory, subdirectories that don't exist. Unlike the create directory method, an exception is not thrown if the directory could not be created because it already exists. So it doesn't throw the exception. That's the reason. Okay, then what I can do is just if I switch to create directory, this should throw an exception, and I'm assuming this is an IO exception. So let's try it with the create just a single subdirectory example, and that still doesn't do it, right? So create directory. So where does it go? Let's Google this, right? And we can Google this.